Hi, how you doing? Back behind me here in the rock garden, I have 1, 2, 3 large patches of Bergenia that need to be at least half the size of what they are. So I thought I'd set up the camera, bring you along and show you what I'm doing. My name is Sharon and I garden on a large yard in a small town in East Central Saskatchewan, Zone 3. Welcome to my Sask Garden. So tools for the job today are pretty easy. I have my stool because I'm going to be sitting to do a good portion of this. Gloves, my Felco pruners, and a couple of buckets. One bucket is going to be for the stuff that I'm going to throw out, and the other bucket is going to be for divisions that I want to save and plant elsewhere. It really isn't the nicest of days today, but it's not terrible either. I think the temperature is around 18 and it's windy, which is, keeping the bugs down, so that's kind of nice. I don't know, I think it's supposed to start raining later on today, so this is kind of a prime time to get this job done because it has been, it hasn't rained for a little while. These leaves really do hold on to a lot of moisture, once you get down in there, so at least I won't be getting wet while doing it. Mostly I'm going to be removing this back part because I want to plant actually one of those red lupins that I bought. I think those lupins, 2 of those lupins would look really nice here in front of the greenhouse and might bloom. I mean, they're blooming now, but that's because they're in the pot. So in a normal time, I think they would bloom just a little bit later, which would be nice as well. Bergenia grows really well in my yard. It seems that wherever I put it, it just really must like the soil, and our soil is fairly alkaline. Not that I've ever had it tested, but any plants or trees or shrubs that like that kind of soil tend to do very well in my yard. I think Bergenia must like that. When they came out of winter this year, I thought that they looked really, really terrible. I thought that there was actually a lot of death. Very often they come out of winter looking beautiful. They're almost evergreen. This winter was not the case, but then they perked up in no time, and now they've pushed out all of this new growth. After they bloom is when they start pushing out that new growth. So now that the bloom stalks are done, I've mentioned it before that, they make a lot of seed pods, and if you don't want them seeding out, be sure to cut off the seed pods. If you do want them seeding out though, I would let them dry. Then I would just take those pods and kind of shake them wherever you want Bergenia to grow. This is not a specific cultivar. This is just some old-fashioned one that I got somewhere along the way. Once I start getting up the divisions, I'll bring you in a little closer. But for now, I'm going just way down. And I'm cutting out those bloom stalks all the way down. And those won't go. They probably could go in the compost. I don't think those seed heads are developed enough to dry and make viable seed. But I think I'll put them in the bag compost. So the other thing that we've got going on in here that I'm going to address right now is some of these really kind of tattered or ratty looking leaves. Once they start, once they've pushed all this new growth and it's looking so nice, I think that these ratty leaves kind of take away from the look of the plant. And just by thinning them out, it also just gives better access for all the new growth that's still under there, all the new leaves that are still pushing. There's little baby ones under there. Just thins it out, I think, and makes it look a little better. I don't think you can really just grasp and pull on these leaves. I don't think that really works. I think you kind of do have to get down in there with a pair of pruners and just trim it up nice and just kind of, some general maintenance on the Bergenia plant. Now, if you didn't do this, I always think Bergenia kind of makes its own mulch, because if you look under there, oh my gosh, there is so many dried leaves that have dried right down to an almost kind of black coloring that is, it looks like it's its own mulch. So you know, you don't have to do that. I'm just going to bring some up to show you. Like, it's just full under there with that kind of stuff. So I think I'll just take the opportunity while I'm here to kind of clean some of that out at the same time. And just kind of, you know, let some air in there. I guess I'm going to fill one of those buckets pretty darn quick. I also like to see the rocks that are all at the bottom. I didn't really place them all there just to be hidden. So I'm going to trim it all up from the bottom as well. And this is the section of plants or planting that is going to remain. This isn't going to get dug up and divided. There's actually very little digging to be done. The plants sort of root as they creep along the ground, and they kind of just, those rooted cuttings just sort of pull up from the soil. So I think we'll go ahead and do that now. We're going to just try and just take about, I want basically just this little corner right here left when I'm done. You know, it's a garden hair day today, right? So no judgment. Okay, so here we go. Actually, I think I'm just going to get my knife. Hori knife. If you guys don't have one, you know, definitely take a look around for one because, gosh, they're just indispensable. So I'm just going to get myself right in there, and right at this sort of division, I'm just going to start pulling that up and see what I get out of it. I'm just going to use my knife just to kind of get in underneath where it's rooted. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 inches. All right, that's come up. I'm just going to have to get in behind it though. Good. I'm just going to prune off what I just pulled up. That's lots. That's all. I'm going to stop here now because that's all I want to dig up. I lost a glove. Maybe it's underneath all these. There it is. All right. So that worked pretty good. Certainly didn't take very long. Once you get in there and start pulling and prying it up, you could get in there with a shovel, but at some point you're going to have to break it from the main stem anyway. And I got a nice opening there now for that lupin. Plus that Boom Chocolata geranium has really, you know, every year it's putting on more and more growth. I sure do love it. Anyways, so here's what we have left over. And I mean, you want to sort of, I'm going to divide it up into sections. At the same time, you really don't want lots of leaf for that. I'm going to take off probably about half the leaves just to, you know, this section in particular really doesn't have that much root. Once they're planted and in the soil, they should be watered frequently. As a matter of fact, these, you can put them in a bucket of water, which is probably what I'm going to do. I'm not sure if I'll get these planted today, hopefully. But I have kept these just in one of these buckets of water for, I don't know, a couple weeks, easy, and they were fine. But if you're going to plant them, all of the foliage would be fine in a bucket of water. But when you go to plant them, just to take some of the pressure off the plant from trying to rehydrate so many leaves, I would remove some of the leaves. Just clip some of them off. All you're really wanting to do this year is get it to root. And even if you just left those baby leaves at the bottom, that's plenty too, for it to, you know, continue to grow and thrive. So kind of out of each section, I'm going to leave 2 leaves. And when I mean section, it's kind of from the main stem or from the stems that are growing up. So here's 1, 2, 3. I'll cut off the biggest leaf here as well. This one has a fair amount of root going on. All of that. See how it roots just at the very bottom of the stem. Of that stem creeps along. So, I mean, just like any other perennial that you divide, you're going to clean it up. And here you see it kind of layers one over. It's almost like a cabbage leaf or like a head of lettuce, the way it sort of layers one over the other. So I'm just going to remove some of that. And then the biggest leaves, I'm not going to keep. That one's ratty anyway. That one looks pretty good. That one and that one I'm taking off, and that's what I'll plant right there. Oh, I imagine I should get probably a dozen divisions out of this. I'm going to split that one in 2. Okay, this one has no roots, but I liked, oh, maybe very few right there. But it will still root. If you were to plant that, it would still root. It's going to struggle more for sure, but if you keep it really wet and not in full sun, I wouldn't plant these kind that have no roots in full sun. This is full sun, and they do fine. So Bergenia do well in full sun. In my yard, they certainly do. And it's also the south side of the greenhouse, so it's pretty warm here. They really don't get any additional watering, only if it's really, last year we had a very dry 2 months, I think, July and August. And so I did put the sprinkler on here a couple of times just to, not particularly for the Bergenia, but for everything else. For me today, these are going to go in part shade. I'm filling in underneath the lilac hedge in the gravel garden, just at the edge. I want that just to kind of be a wall of Bergenia there. Well, not a wall, but, you know, a small hedge, I guess, of Bergenia. And there's lots of room for it to spread there. It can spread in and amongst the lilacs. And so that's kind of, they get a little bit of sun, but mostly it's shade under there. All right, this one has some roots. So I'm just gonna, that's a pretty good division right there. And here as well, I have 2 sections. Just cut it off. They're very soft when you cut that. Clean it up, trim. There we go. I don't know what to do with this. This has roots, but this section with the leaves on it has no roots. And this is rotten in between there, so I'll keep it, but I feel like I'm going to have far more than I need. And these unrooted sections, like I said, they will root, but I think I probably won't need them in the long run. I'm going to cut off some of this bottom part just so that I can plant it vertically. It was growing horizontally like that. That's basically how it was growing. But I think that when I go to plant it, I'll just plant it vertically and put those roots into the soil. Sorry, you guys, I know my hair is all over, but it's just that kind of a day. I should have put a hat on. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. It's kind of funny, actually, having to think about people looking at you while you're gardening. It's generally not something that I've you know, in my life ever really considered. I just sort of went for it. All right, so that's what's going to happen. I think it has enough root structure here that it's going to support this. And if not, you know, if you were to do this and later you go and you see that the leaves are all wilting, I mean, just, you know, trim them in by half or cut them off or pour more water on the plant. All right, that's one section. So there's the hole I made for myself to plant one of the lupins, and that planting is cut back by about half now, and I landed up with 10 divisions. The other two sections are pretty big, and they're encroaching this gravel path here, and they spread quite a ways. This one over here spreads all the way to the gravel garden, but I'm going to let that go. And this one on the left, I'm actually just going to take away what is covering the path, and all the rest there that go toward the left, I'm going to let that continue to be ground cover for this area. I don't mind that. This one toward the right is also pretty widespread, and so I'm going to remove what's covering the path, or some of it anyway, as well as probably quite a bit of what's going on at the back there. I have other perennials that I'd like to plant in here. I mean, that's one of the main reasons, as well as for this section to just to stop it from growing over the gravel. I'm going to film this part, but I suspect you're going to see a hyper sped up version, maybe along with some music. That's better. Okay, we had a little shower come through, but it stopped, and I'm not sure, it doesn't seem like it's going to rain again really quick, so I'm going to go ahead and plant some of these out just along the hedge there. And Andy's come out and he's going to help me dig some holes, and we're going to get these planted in. Okay, so I've already got 5 planted here that I planted out here last year. They're still very small. I've laid out another 2 dozen, about 2 dozen, and just going to go ahead and get them in the ground. So this soil is pretty mulchy, and instead of digging an entire hole, we are just doing that, slipping it in, and Then I'm going to give it a step and a water, and hopefully that is going to work. Yeah, good. Okay. So that was fast and furious. Filled it in very nicely. The trick here now is going to be to keep them saturated. So that'll be the next step, is watering them in really well, and then keeping them well watered in, you know, even through the heat of the summer, to make sure that that stays nice and moist, just because of, first of all, the way they were planted, with just dropping them in like that, and second of all, because they really don't have a whole lot of root to manage the leaves that they have. Anyways, I think it turned out really good. And I'm sure that as we go on, I will lose a leaf or two. I usually do when I transplant Bergenia like that. And but you know, at the end of the day, it's going to fill in beautifully in here. Oh, forgot one here. Super mulchy soil there. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for watching. I always appreciate you taking the time to do that. And I hope you found it helpful in some way. If you did, give me a thumbs up, maybe hit that hype button. And if you haven't yet subscribed, I'd love for you to do that too. I hope you're doing well. See you soon.